We'll start. The second public hearing of the Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations on the issues surrounding the participation of the Philippine delegation in the WHO FCTC COP10, which resulted in the Philippines receiving its fifth Dirty Ashtray Award, is now called to order. I would like you all to join me for a moment of silence to remember our colleague, the late Senior Deputy Executive Secretary and Head of the said Philippine delegation, Attorney Hubert Dominic Guevara. Let us observe a moment of silence to honor his life. So let's proceed. In our last hearing, we invited members of the Philippine delegation and other concerned stakeholders to shed light on the issues surrounding the country's participation in COP10 and its receipt of the fifth Dirty Ashtray Award. During the said hearing, the following were established. The Philippine delegation was the biggest delegation in the conference, even bigger than China and Russia. And why is this relevant? This is relevant because I assume the representatives of the different agencies spent their public funds. I assume there are permits issued by their own respective heads of each agency. And it surprises and shocks me that we have to send such a huge delegation. I understand from the hearing, the first hearing, that there were a lot of exchanges of position papers, sharing of information. So to have to still bring that huge delegation is already something that each agency should be accountable for. If I were to be asked, the biggest agency that would attend would be DOH and DTI because of the lopsided vape law that gave authority to DTI. Then obviously DTI should be there. DOH, as the guardian of our health, should also be there. And what was also taken up, and correct me if I'm wrong, we raised the a yearly request of the health advocates that they be made an official part of the delegation. We did, no? We raised that. And if I'm not mistaken, the late Secretary Guevara said that that is duly noted, and I think he said they will do so next year. So I have no idea who will head this delegation next year, but I wanted to put that on record. So among the reasons for the receipt of the fifth Dirty Ashtray Award is for the Philippine delegation delaying discussions on testing and disclosure of tobacco contents. So on that matter, I continue to hold the position that it is our solemn duty, whether you are part of the Department of Health or any other department of this country. It is our solemn duty, each one of us, to protect the lives of the Filipinos. So to not want to disclose details of tobacco content and testing, to delay it in any manner, is totally unacceptable to this representation. And that is what you are all here for. That is what we are asking you to explain if you should be held accountable for that. Because there are deadlines coming up, June 5, I think, of this year. And I will read into the record. Well, I'll read it now. Actually, I'll read it later because I want to go. I'll read later into the record how much time has already lapsed before we required these vape manufacturers and sellers to register. So if you go around your neighborhoods, each one of you will see vape stores. You have no idea if the content of those vape of those what do you call this? The container, ba tawag doon? Pods. You have no idea what these young people are inhaling. And we're selling it without it being tested. Who is that on? Who is responsible for that? That's what we're going to discuss today. Because it's being sold. And the deadline for registration was delayed because of the passage of the vape law. And there's less than 2 months for this new deadline to be observed. So the tobacco control health advocates during the hearing recommended that the delegation must be headed by the DOH, who advocates positions that promote public health interests. And later on, I will ask a representative of the advocacy group, Dr. Asunta, to maybe give us a history, because I understand that as we discussed today, the receipt of the Dirty Ashtray Award, there was a time in history that the Philippines actually received the Orchid Award. So I'm going to ask each one of you sitting here in my hearing, if that is the objective or nag-aabala lang ako, kasi may isa pa akong hearing mamaya. Ikakat ko na lang to ng mas maiksip. I will just start my next hearing, because kung happy naman tayo, kung okay lang tayo, if we're just going to try to defend na, oh, we didn't deserve that Dirty Ashtray Award, yeah, but do we deserve the Orchid Award? Is it that not the goal? Is it that not what we tell our students? Aspire for excellence. So tayo, ano aspiration natin? Na lumusot lang? Di bali na kung sino nagbigay ng award na yan. It doesn't matter. We don't recognize the group who gave that award. But what's the goal? That's what I want to ask each one of you. Anyway, I was enumerating what the recommendations of the tobacco control health advocates were. And the other recommendation is to ensure that delegates fulfill obligations according to FCTC. So I will just ask later on the delegates to explain that again para klaro with the key agencies present, DTI and DOH, klaro. Hindi na tayo magtatalo kung ano ba yung obligations na expected sa kanila. And then to exclude those who promote tobacco industry in the delegation. If I'm not mistaken, that is a major reason, right? That alone is a reason why we receive the award. And later on, since the Secretary Herbosa is here, we will also ask you, sir, to explain how in the world DOH even mentions a balanced policy when the obligation of DOH is to protect health. And finally, sabi ng tobacco control health advocates to have a comprehensive review of laws and policies on tobacco. We are happy to do that. Maybe not in the Blue Ribbon Committee, but through this representation's capacity in the Committee on Health. Okay, so for today's hearing, we will hear from DOH and FDI, we will also hear from DTI, and we will also hear from the health advocate. So let me just figure out how we will start. Siguro I will start with Secretary, no? Since you've taken the time to be here today, Secretary, and your team naman was very participative in the last hearing. I'm always grateful for DOH, but we really want to hear from the Secretary, because we know very well a department's vision really depends on what the leadership sets. And before I give the floor to you, Secretary, I'll reiterate now so you can answer the question directly. May goal ba tayo na makatanggap naman ng Orchid Award? Yun lang. Nahilig ako sa orchids, FYI. Pero tapos na birthday ko. So next year na ulit.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to actually speak. I apologize for not having been in the previous hearing of the Blue Ribbon, because I was out of the country. I was in South Korea to receive a donation of
Secretary, I'm sorry to interrupt you, no? I failed to point out that there are new resource persons, including Ms. Honor, that need to take the oath. May we ask our Director General, Attorney Rudy Kimbo, to administer the oath?
Those who are here for the first time, kindly stand up, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding? Thank you. You may take your seats.
Secretary, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes, I was unable to attend the first Blue Ribbon Committee because I was in South Korea to receive a donation on TB testing that was donated to the Philippine government. Also, I'd like to explain to the Blue Ribbon Committee that my stand has been my stand ever since, even before I became Secretary of Health, that I'm part of the anti-tobacco advocacy group. In fact, on World Tobacco Day, I was in a press conference with my colleagues in Health Justice fighting the statement of vape, saying that vape is safer, and we debunked that particular theory. Then on June 5, I was called to Malacanang to be appointed as Health Secretary. So I am, if you look into the essence, is really an anti-tobacco advocate, even way back when the sin tax was actually passed. So as the FCTC was supposed to have been planned for November, if you remember, we had also recommended that a senator be added to the delegation as well. And unfortunately, I think they said the DFA said that the addition of new members was already closed. So, ma'am, if you remember, I actually nominated you to be part of the delegation that was due to schedule when it got postponed, because I remember we were heavy in our budget hearings at that time in November. So it was difficult for you. But when it was moved to February, I immediately recommended that Senator Cayetano be added into the delegation, but they had some reason that it was already not. And then when they never also removed me as head of delegation, I was co-lead.
So were you co-head or?
I was co-head ever since. But at the same time, a new meeting was actually, I was called to another meeting, which is the Stop TB Partnership. The TB program was a directive to me of the president since he appointed me to look at the problem of TB. And in the UN General Assembly, there was a high-level meeting on TB. Because of the president's statements and our trust, they actually invited me to join the meeting in Brazil, which was exactly at the same time that the FCTC meeting was held in Panama, and which was also a meeting that the Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros, actually attended. So I felt I was in the right meeting because the DG of we're fighting a disease that is very old, tuberculosis. And ma'am, for your information, I just received a letter yesterday. They have nominated me to chair the Stop TB Partnership for the next 3 years after India, and asking me if I'm willing to accept such a nomination. So in return for not having led the FCTC, the Department of Health at the FCTC, I have been able to get an international recognition for the work we're doing on tuberculosis. So meron naman tayong parang award in that particular sense. But I know that after the Ashtray award, I spoke to some of our colleagues in the DFA, and I actually told them quietly, and I said, can you please allow me to lead the next FCTC with my health officials and people who really understand the FCTC? So I think I will carry on with what Hubert promised, to include our colleagues in the advocacy group to be part of the actual delegation. So as I've heard...
Well, before you go on, no, I just would like to make a few remarks. You said that you believe you were in the right meeting, no, by attending the TB meeting because Secretary General Tedros was present, and it is an important issue. But my question to you is, may mga grupo bang humahadlang sa pagsulong ng TB programs natin? Meron ba?
Wala naman, ma'am.
Wala naman. So, if you're the leader of a battle, saan ka battle pupunta? Dun sa may kalaban ka o dun sa walang kalaban? You don't have to answer that question. But I'm posing it to you because that is the reality. Yes, I know TB is important. In fact, I have loved ones who have TB because sabi nga nila, almost every Filipino is exposed to TB. So I know I know, and I know how complicated it can get because during the time of COVID, yung mga may TB, mas may tama. So I know, wala tayong issue dyan. Ang tanong ko lang is, may humahad lang ba? I'm happy for you. I congratulate you for the recognition. I'm happy when anyone in our country gets recognition because Filipinos are known to be hardworking and we're intelligent and we deserve the recognition. Pero saan kang laban kailangan, Secretary? Yun ang tanong. Okay? So I'll leave it at that. Let's proceed because I need you to decide what your priorities are. Because if you tell me that you've requested to be part, and I do know your history as an anti-tobacco advocate, then I want to see if next year, paano kung may kasabay? Paano kung may polio? Ang tindi din ng polio. I'm very scared about the resurgence of polio, of measles. Paano kung doon ka pinatawag? I would like you there too. Those are also issues important to me as a mother, as a health advocate. But saan ka kailangan?
That's
So
correct.
anyway, I give you back the floor. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that clarification. And I continue because when I came back, even after, although I attended the TB meeting, when I came back and I heard after the events in Panama, I immediately held a meeting with the chief of the PNP. And the purpose of the meeting was really to implement the vape law in which they lowered the age limit to 18. So I held a meeting with PNP and said, what is the PNP doing? And they promised, at that time it was still PNP Chief Acorda. So I had a high-level meeting with him, with all his generals, to actually discuss the implementation of execution, because I was seeing kids as I drive around. I see kids in high school uniform with something hanging on their neck, and then they actually sip. So I said, these are not 18 years old. And our law specifically says the vape products cannot be sold to 18 years old. So I was asking them to create a implementation of the law, and they gladly said they will actually. So my battles are there, ma'am. I still continue to make sure that what is made as a law and as a DOH secretary protect the health of our youth. So yun ang una kong ginawa. And then I also requested DFA na the next meeting, I would really like to see a health team that would attend the FCTC, because the FCTC is a health treaty, and the people that attend it are health experts and advocates of health. So I would like to see a Philippine delegation that actually are pro health, which is our mandate. So, and I would love to head a team like that. And you can understand also my frustration, because I'm going to be head of delegation of a 34-man team, and more than half are from the industry. So,
But you also should have put on record your statements about it, Secretary, because as public officials, we will all be held accountable for our actions. So for your protection, each one of you, DTI, FDA, DOH, cover your tracks. I'm not scaring you, but it is a fact. If you don't cover your tracks and you become party to actions that endanger Filipinos, you could be, the law is very clear. You may be found negligent of your duty, and there are criminal repercussions. So that's me telling you that be careful, because the law is also very clear on what your mandates are. So anyway,
thank you very much, ma'am.
put it on record. If you have a problem with how things were organized, if you do not agree with that 30, you should say so. You should say that I'm happy to head this delegation of 6 people, of 8 people, and that the law does not allow. Are you aware, Mr. Secretary, of the prohibition on what is the word? I'm about to say fraternizing, no, with the tobacco industry, but what is the actual wording of the law? I'm sure memorized ni Dr. Julian. What is the word? About
Interference.
but what is the word?
Tobacco industry.
Can we read it? Can we read it? No, somebody just take the floor and just put on the mic kasi sabay para tayong chorus. Memorize nyo lahat.
Dr. Maricar Lim,
Yes.
unnecessary interactions with tobacco industry.
Necessary actions with the tobacco industry. That's what it is, unnecessary. So pag necessary, so for example, what I was explaining to my team, they have to register. So if they will have to talk to the representatives of FDA and ask for clarification what's the registration requirement, okay naman yun eh, kasi kailangan naman nila malaman kung paano mag-register, di ba? Ngayon, kung sasama sa anniversary ng DOH o DTI, I don't think that's necessary. Kung sasama sa delegation, it's a health convention. Why are they there? They can give their position paper, they can submit their position paper. So you have to make a stand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we actually did make a stand. We had several pre-meeting meetings with the DTI, Tobacco Authority, DFA in the DFA building, and we held several because we submitted our own statements and positions for against tobacco in those meetings. Of course, there were some agreements, but there were also disagreements. And in fact, in those meetings, I clearly stated that we should not even speak if we have a disagreement between the members of the delegation.
Can you say that again? That statement? I
Because
just
what
didn't hear.
happened in the previous FCTC was we were given an Ashtray award, not in this one, the previous one, that because there were statements that were vague from the Philippine delegation. There was pro and anti-tobacco statements being said at the same time. So in the meeting, in the preparations for Panama, I specifically stated we only declare things that we have consensus on. And those wherein we are arguing, industry is arguing with health, we will not make any official statement. And I think our SDS was able to actually handle that very well. Even my chief of staff, Undersecretary Lilibet, knew our stand. It's the health stand. Even the president knew I'm for the health stand of the Filipino people in this one.
On that note, Mr. Secretary, what happened was, and yun nga, it was a battle you were not physically present in. Nagkanda delay ang resolution on the issue of testing and content of tobacco products. And there were all sorts of not all sorts, but there were recommendations coming from the Philippine delegation, which basically led to the delay. And the delay is known to be a tobacco lobby tactic. If you're new to this, which you are not, but those new to it might not see it right away na, ano naman, karapatan naman nila mag-propose ng expert group, working group, isang katutak na group, yun nga yung point eh. In the world of tobacco lobby, the advocates for health know that it is a tactic. And you were not around to try to push it, no? With all due respect to the late Secretary Guevara, who I have a lot of respect for, he was explaining how he did not see right away that this resulted in non-action on the part. Basically, there will be nothing will happen because the convention is doesn't have a lot of funds, so the end result is nothing will happen. He did not recognize that, and I believe it is on record, so do correct me if I'm wrong, that he said on hindsight he did not realize that yun yung repercussion. Maybe he would realize it if you were there, Mr. Secretary. Yun yung point. Like, who's the best man, diba? The best man should have been you, with all due respect.
Thank you for that confidence. But we were actually supporting SDS at that time. In fact, many of the suggestions were coming from our team, from the Department of Health.
It's like me sending my amazing female team of lawyers instead of me. I'm sure they will be like, fight kami, PSC. They call me PSC. Fight kami. Yeah, I'm sure. But iba pa rin yung impact kung ako yun. Alam mo na yun. Alam mo na yun. It's the same reason why I'm having a second meeting, because I need to see you eye to eye, face to face, because I need to hear it from you. So there is a difference.
Maybe for your confidence or trust, I was actually getting daily updates from the person beside me. OIC Asek Albert was physically at the meeting, and he was sending me Viber messages, and I was actually explaining things that were happening in the meeting. So I was there in the battle virtually.
I also get from Dr. Domingo. He's very competent. Very competent. But let's not argue about this, no? Like I said, if hindi ka nag-attend ng TB, meron bang humaharang sa TB program? Wala. Dito, may humaharang? Meron. Marami. So, that's what it is. Floor is still yours. What else do you want to add?
Yes, well, I will not argue with you, Madam, for that, but TB was an opportunity that came, and I saw it as a judgment call, and I did get a lot of assistance and help. We got donations for additional drug-resistant TB meds, and also the chairmanship of that big international TB partnership, plus all the international agencies that are actually helping us in our fight in TB. So to me, it's a big success, and I think I can recover. I will be able to lead the next FCTC delegation of the Philippines still, and be able to push the anti-tobacco and the health dimension as well. Thank you, Madam.
Yeah, so the next question will answer my concerns or maybe my doubts as to what did we lose by your not being there. So maybe we can go to FDA and DTI, who is in charge of the registration, on what do we expect to happen in on June 5. I'm still confused because in my world, it really is supposed to be the job of FDA. But in the world created by legislators who outvoted me, that job was given to DTI. So, bahala na kayong mag-explain kasi I don't know who's in charge of what at this point. Do you want to take the lead, Dr. Sakate?
Yes, ma'am, I just
And
would
then
like,
be ready, no, DTI, kasi kayo bang in charge sa registration, the group here? Is this you, Asset? Okay.
just like what I would just like to give a manifestation, ma'am, Ma'am Chair. As the Director General of the Food and Drug Administration, our consistent stand will be still that the FDA is dedicated to safeguarding the health and well-being of the Filipino. The agency aligns its mission with the Department of Health, which aims to protect the public from the harmful effects of tobacco and emerging tobacco products. The FDA strongly believes that these products are health products and should be under our jurisdiction. Nonetheless, the FDA is committed to fulfilling its mandate under the FDA Act of 2009 and its role under the VNP regulation of the Act of 2022 by continuously enhancing its capability and strengthening its coordination with various government law enforcement agencies and to enforce this law effectively. The FDA also reaffirms its support and preparedness and willingness to collaborate with the Office of the Senator Pia, Madam Chair, to enhance existing laws and further protect the Filipino people.
Is that it?
I would like to give an updates on the regulation of the FDA as to the for the vape law, the implementation of RA number 11900. As to date, Madam Chair, FDA is in the process of issuing policy for the regulation of the vapes and novel tobacco products with medicinal or therapeutic claim and its restatement. The FDA published the draft guidelines for comment last February 1, 2024. Currently, all submitted position papers are carefully being reviewed and addressed in the revised draft. A second public consultation is expected to be conducted within first week of May this year po, ma'am. So, basically, we are on the verge of drafting the mandate that was given to me by the RA 11900, ma'am.
Can you repeat what you said na about the policies of, what did you say?
Because the vape law, Madam Chair, mandates us to give a policy regarding the health, therapeutic claims and reduced risk statements for the vape law. So I just gave the updates, ma'am, as to Madam Chair, as to what is FDA is doing regarding those policies. So it's up to date and within the timeline period po.
On that note, no, let's be clear, no, and DOH and the health advocates again kindly correct me if I'm wrong and improve my statement if it can be said more accurately. With the mandate given to FDA under the vape law on the reduced risk statements, so basically nakalagay nga dito reduced risk statements which are authorized, validated, accepted, or permitted by reliable and mature national regulatory agencies for vape and nicotine and non-nicotine products and novel tobacco products shall be taken into consideration by the FDA. From what we know, in most or in all countries, so please give me an update. The vape companies are not positioning their products as a reduced risk product. They claim it is reduced risk, but they do not position it as such and apply for this reduced risk category of products. Am I correct? Am I correct? Because I've discussed this in multiple hearings. Nagagawa sila ng claim, less harmful. Meron pa silang 99% less harmful. Kung ano-anong presentation na less harmful sila. And yet, even in other countries that have more mature regulatory agencies, they have not presented their products as a reduced risk. Are you aware of this, Dr. Sarate?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes. So it's still your job to come out the policies, pero in all likelihood nag-aral para sa isang exam tapos sinabi naman na hindi, pasado naman lahat eh. Tama?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Because you have to be prepared. So
yeah.
I'm not in any way belittling the work that you have to do. You have to do it. Eh baka may isa diyan na mag-abalang mag-present, because I have challenged them to present their claims as a reduced risk product. And yun nga, it's not a thing. It's not something that they do. So don't expect it. Sabihin mo na lang sa team mo, go lang tayo, pero baka wala ring mag-avail nito. But it's still your job.
Madam Chair, the FDA is steadfast on its mandate regarding this issue, and I will promise to the Madam Chair to.
So then my question now to everyone who cares to give me a reply is, I will assume that those policies have general statements that state that the general rule that there is no reduced risk until they prove that there is reduced risk, correct? So
Yes, Madam Chair.
anytime that anyone claims that there is a reduced risk, you're on it, right?
Yes,
You
Madam
will
Chair.
go after them.
Yes, Madam
There is a
Chair.
violation of law, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
So who's on it? Is that FDA who will run after them? Is it DTI? Is it the police? Who goes after them? Buti na ngayon pa lang maliwanag na tayo kasi ang dami ko pa rin naririnig.
Under the Vape Law 11900 is the mandate of the FDA with regards to the jurisdiction.
Sorry.
Under the RA 11900, Madam Chair, the jurisdiction lodges into the Food and Drug Administration. For the
So
therapeutic,
pag nag-claim sila na wala, just like your other, what do you call them, health or what do you call that? Ano ba yung pag hindi, well, health, basically anyone that claims a health benefit, they have to answer to you.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So nananawagan ako sa lahat ng mahilig manood ng TikTok, kung ano pa man, na pag may nakita kayo na nagve-vape na sinasabing less harmful, that is an actionable statement if that's coming from the manufacturer or the seller, and inform FDA kasi hahabulin nila yan. Tama?
Yes, Madam Chair. Basically, there's no policy, there's no applicant. So basically, those claims
Yeah,
are
so
not
anyone who makes a claim is performing an illegal act.
absolutely, Madam Chair.
Okay, so you go after them, okay?
Of course.
And this is where, Secretary, you said that you had a meeting with PNP. Okay, you talk to them. Now, I will inform you that I am aware of isa lang naman yung alam ko, but I am aware of a vaping company that has made an athlete an endorser. I will forward it to you. I feel so bad for the athlete kasi feeling ko naman, di naman nila alam. But dapat alam yan ng company, and siguro kailangan nyo talagang ano yan.
Yes, Madam Chair. Please forward it to our office, then we will give appropriate action.
Okay. And there are also a lot of who is in charge naman of ensuring that our public spaces remain safe, because it's becoming a thing that you really see all around, like you said, Secretary, na biglang may hawak, may nakaganito, and you can't miss it because it tends to be very colorful in public places. Of course, as you know, I'm an athlete, so I commonly frequent areas of where people engage in sports, and you'll see people on the side. Just because athlete ka doesn't necessarily mean naman na wala ka ring bisyo, di ba? So, merong naninigarilyo, may umiinom, may nagve-vape, and sa akin, if you're an adult, bahala ka. That's your choice. But it's bawal, di ba, in these public places. So, indoor places. So, medyo laganap din yan. So, I'd like to see samples of your releases. Like, I don't want you to tell me, ay, nandyan naman yan sa website namin. Di yun ang gusto ko. Meron tayo secretary na health, ano ba, health enhancement budget? Ano ba yung budget? Promotions? Health promotions. So, digitally, that's not that hard to spread out these digital announcements saying if you see people smoke using vape products, it's not allowed, kindly call it out. Work with young influencers who can help you shape that narrative and that announcement in a way that resonates with them.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
That is one of our discussions with the PNP, the prohibition of vaping in areas where city ordinances have been passed, because some city ordinances have really passed an anti-vaping,
Right.
like for example, Vico Soto in Pasig. And then we also had a meeting with the Vice President, Secretary of Education, also the no vaping in schools, that we can actually implement it as part of our health and safety and health promotion. So those are the areas we have been discussing where we can actually implement it. For the tobacco, there's a certain radius around the school. We're smoking 100 meters, 100 meters.
Yeah.
So we'd like to use the same, and we'd actually encourage many of our local chief executives to also pass legislation, local legislation. And the police told me if there is a ordinance, city ordinance, they will implement it. That's their claim. Thank you.
Pero Secretary, let's be clear, no? I would appreciate if you can even give your counterpart in PNP a call that the law is very clear. In indoor, it's bawal. So they don't need an ordinance. We don't need to burden the local chief executives to pass another ordinance. Ang indoor bawal. If they want to do more than that, I would be happy. The advocates would be happy. But yung indoor pa lang, hindi yan nababantayan kasi nandyan sa mga gilid-gilid, nandun sa mga stairwell. Bawal yun. Don't need an ordinance for that.
Correct, ma'am. Actually, ang discussion namin, ang explanation ng police, what do they call it? An omnibus guideline for the policemen to implement the law. I think they have to craft it so that it's a standard implementation by all policemen.
Who will craft?
PNP has to craft that. So
Pero Secretary, kasi this law was passed how many years na? So, kakapagod naman for me to keep waiting for guidelines. The law is very clear, oh. The use of vaporized nicotine and non-nicotine products shall be prohibited in all indoor public places, except in DVAs or in point-of-sale established for purpose of conducting product demonstration. So, nandyan na yan eh. So, parang,
ma'am, it's more of
I
the
don't need to-
operational guideline of, let's say, I will accost you. I will say you're under arrest because you're violating the law. That's the one that they have to make a very clear guidelines. Kasi may magre-resist.
okay, a minute
Abogado
suspend.
dyan.
Let's resume. I'd like to make it very clear, Secretary, and to all the agencies represented here. If a crime is committed, you don't need rules and regulations. You don't need implementing rules for the implementing agencies to act. If a murder is created, if a murder is created, if a murder occurs, they can proceed. The law says you cannot smoke, you cannot use vape products indoor. That's it, Mr. Secretary. So if you want to help them out with a few more details, that's your call. But at this very moment, if you don't apprehend, if they don't apprehend, that's non-performance of your duty. That's already a nonfeasance. That's already a crime. I'll make that very clear. You cannot rely on the non-existence of implementing rules or guidelines or what do you call this, memorandum of agreements between agencies to act.
Madam Chair, I also asked that question, and their answer to me, the Directorate of Operations, explained that they are just trying to make sure that the law will not be abused, because the seller can be extorted by our own uniformed police if there are no very clear guidelines on how the arrest will be done and where they will be brought, or the violator. So extortion might happen. So that's the way they explained it to me, that they have very clear standard operating procedure on how, with this new law, how the arrest will be made. So I asked them to actually hurry that up and be able to implement it. But we had a change in chief of police, so I think I will have to follow up with the new chief of police the implementation of these agreements with the
I
general
suggest that you do, and in our Blue Ribbon Committee report, what I said is considered fair warning to everyone, because you don't need, I repeat, implementing rules to follow the law. It's very clear. I'll move on because I have nothing else to say about this topic. It's a delaying tactic again if you don't recognize it. Yes, Dr. Sakate.
Madam Chair, recently I do not have time to do it the social media thing. So, but I asked my technical working group, is there any companies that is violating the law? So maybe I will ask my field operations group to investigate all those stakeholders that is violating the law. Then we will give them a letter for explanation. So maybe that's the thing that I can do.
Maybe if I may introduce you to each other, I'm sure they also have their own parang ano yan eh, parang yan yung they breathe and wake up every day to this. You know, the algorithms in social media is kung ano yung either interest mo or hindi mo interest, pero you have to keep track. Like I have to keep track of certain things whether I like to or not. It will keep going to you. So work with them. Maybe DICT. I'm not really sure of the how detailed DICT, but normally kasi when we ask them to track, di ba, it's DICT, NBI, lahat naman yan, di ba? Oo. Yeah, so it is in your best interest, Dr. Sakate, that you, if you can present what you've done to do your part of monitoring, that would be the best for your team, for all of you, DOH, FDA. Did you want to say something, Dr. Yil?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to your earlier question about therapeutic claims of manufacturers and importers, the US FDA has a separate track for these products. It's called MRTP, Modified Risk Tobacco Products track. And the way the industry has exploited this is to say that their products reduce exposure to certain chemical toxicants, without saying that there is a reduced risk of harm. So the MRTP pathway actually is two-track. One is reduced exposure and the other one is reduced risk. And so when their products pass the reduced exposure pathway, That's evidence-based. There is really reduced exposure to certain toxicants, but not all toxicants. And there are, of course, new toxicants introduced by these newer products. However, the industry in mass media says their products are less harmful compared to cigarettes. So to a layman, that sounds like reduced risk of harm. And that's the way most people understand it. So my question, Madam Chair, is if the products themselves do not carry a reduced risk claim because they cannot actually have that claim supported by evidence, what is to stop manufacturers, importers, and retailers from saying these are less harmful alternatives to cigarettes? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Rephrase that in a way I, as a layman, understand it. Not doctor to doctor. So, na-filter yung sinabi ng isang doktor sa isang abogado at ibabalik ko sa doktor. Okay? Tama naman, di ba? So, from a scientific standpoint, yung reduced risk claim, para masabi mo yon, dun ka mag-a-apply, dun sa reduced risk department na yon. Eh wala namang mag-a-apply ng ganun kasi hindi sila mabibigyan. Dahil scientifically, hindi nila mapoprove na may reduced risk. And yet, they are saying in public forums, right? In public forums that this is less harmful. So how do you ensure and do you intend to ensure that the public is not misled such that a lawyer like me, when I see that it's less harmful, of course, ang ibig sabihin, di less harmful, di okay, better. And yet, hindi pala siya pumasa dun sa reduced risk process na yan. Hindi siya papasa. Pero pwede siyang magsabi na less harmful. So how do you intend to address that? Are you prepared to tell them you cannot say it's less harmful because you cannot scientifically prove that it is reduced risk? Can we do that?
Madam Chair, basically when they apply with the FDA, they first follow certain rules. For example, in the health claim or the therapeutic claim, it must fall into the Center for Drug. It says they need clinical trials for it. Sa lengwa po ng mga medisina, lagi po kaming evidence-based.
Yes.
So basically, they cannot put anything that can mislead the public.
Okay.
The question
so they cannot
was,
mislead the
of
public.
course, definitely. Ma'am.
And the public are mostly non-doctors.
Yeah, of
So they
course.
cannot say those things na less harmful, ano bang ibang choice of words doon? Less harmful, ano ba? Yun lang talaga narinig ko less harmful. Safer. Oh, they cannot say that.
Yeah. Basically, Madam Chair, it's a marketing strategy.
So,
But,
sinabi mo na yan. So, I wanna be sure nandyan yan sa guidelines mo. I want to
Basically,
be
yes, ma'am.
sure so that when you tell them, I'm apprehending you because you're saying this,
Mali
then you
talaga.
can say you're not allowed to say it or you cannot say anything that will lead the public to believe na safer, less harmful, mas hindi ako magkakasakit. Ano pa ba yun sa Bisaya? Kung ano man. Diba?
Madam
So,
Chair, that's why before I talk here, I asked my people to investigate further dun sa mga company na nagbibigay ng reduced risk. Kasi nga sabi ko po kanina, medyo less on time ko to social media, hindi ko siya napapansin.
Hindi.
So,
but you can
yun
hire
po.
experts who can do that.
Yeah, basically, yes po. Yes po. Meron naman po kaming ganon and we suggest also to the
Ang
DOH
dami
po.
niyan ha, pati yung mga whitener, yung mga...
Meron po ba?
Ay, ang dami niyan. Oo
Hindi ko po kasi
naman.
masyado napapansin. Pero anyway po,
Tanong mo yung mga tao dito.
Okay
sa
po.
likod. Alam nila lahat yan. Wala akong TikTok, so hindi ko rin yan. I
Oo
mean,
nga
wala
po eh.
akong, I don't operate my TikTok, so I don't see what's out there.
yes, Madam Chair, definitely it's the mandate of the FD to protect the public safety, na po, especially the health. No? So, as I said a while ago, I asked my people to investigate kung sino-sino po yung mga nagre-reduce risk claim. Kasi basically, wala pa naman po talagang approve sa FDA for that. And I think, yeah, ongoing po ang policy namin review for that. So basically, they're operating illegally. So we will call their attention, we will tell them to shut it
No, ito
down.
na lang. Ako na magsasabi sa'yo, magpapunta ka ng tao mo dun sa mga vape shop na i-record, well, bawal naman mag-record without the consent of another party, no, that's a crime. But at least you're person there can testify that ito yung sinabi sa kanya. Na ano yung sinabi nila, oh, okay ba to? Yung ganun lang, papunta mo, okay ba to? Ba't ano bang meron to? Di ba, mas ano ba to kaysa sa sigarilyo? O ganun.
Parang in-traffic
Oh,
operation
I will
po.
wait for your call on Friday, ha?
Sige po,
No,
Madam Chair.
seriously, it's that simple.
Yes, Madam
It's
Chair.
that simple.
We will submit a report, ma'am, and then we will give you, for the first phase, maybe we can investigate further para one po ang aming approach, lahat po sila. So then we will submit the report to you on what we have did in the FDA po. To, yun nga po, to give the full mandate po ng aming,
Okay.
thank you, Madam.
Okay. So I'm asking my team to show you all the video. I mean, it's really not that hard to find these things, no? But before we go there, while they're setting up, I'd like to call on Dr. Mary Asunta to share her insights on the Philippine performance and participation in COP 1 to 10. I can't believe it. No, you were actually present, physically present from 1 to 10. Wow. So kindly give us
except for COP
except
2.
for one. Okay. Too bad. But anyway, you can report on 1 and then 3 to 10. The floor is yours, Doctora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Mary Asunta Kolanday, and I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for the Southeast Asia Tobacco Control Alliance and the Head of Research and Advocacy for the Global Center for Good Governance in Tobacco Control. So as part of the international community, I have followed the negotiation sessions of the WHO FCTC and have attended nearly all of the sessions from COP 1 to COP 10, except for COP 2. And this is as an observer, NGO observer. Over the years, I've observed the Philippines go from being a champion country for tobacco control that raised the bar. For example, at COP 5, the Philippines received an orchid for excluding the National Tobacco Administration as a sign of implementing Article 5.3 of the WHO FCTC, to now one that is taking weaker positions or positions more aligned with countries that are either non-parties to the FCTC or those that support the tobacco industry. This is seen especially over the past 3 COP sessions, and this also coincides with an observation that when the Department of Health was not the head of delegation at COP 8, COP 9, and COP 10. And this is to negotiate at a health treaty. Having monitored the tobacco industry for over 3 decades, I can identify industry buzzwords and phrases. One such term often used by the industry is taking a balanced approach. And in reality, there can be no balanced approach in tobacco control. You either protect public health or the tobacco industry. When you look at the balance sheet, the cost of tobacco to health and society far outweighs the benefits that the tobacco industry claims it provides. This balance sheet cannot balance. It was surprising for the international observers at COP 10 to hear the Philippines delegation refer to RA 11900, the vape law that had lowered the purchase age and allowed online advertising, as a landmark legislation with new safeguards. What actually is best practice in safeguarding children and youth from new tobacco products? About 40 countries around the world, including 5 in the ASEAN region, have taken a precautionary approach and banned vape products to safeguard children and youth as part of comprehensive tobacco control. The fact that more Filipino children are now vaping can only mean that they are not being safeguarded. Other countries that have allowed sales of vapes, such as the UK, Indonesia, Malaysia, they are now facing a big problem with children vaping. In Australia, vape products can only be sold by prescription, flavors are banned, and disposable vapes are banned. The tobacco and nicotine industry has framed e-cigarettes as the less harmful alternative to cigarettes and a good investment for the country. And this is a persuasive argument that has been bought by trade and investment officials. However, more evidence is now emerging on the many harms of vaping, primarily injuries to lungs and the heart. And the latest research shows e-cigarettes users had changes to their DNA in their cheek cells, similar to those of smokers. Tobacco companies have persuaded many governments, including policymakers in the Philippines government, that they are phasing out cigarettes because smoking is harmful, and that regulators should allow so-called less harmful alternatives, such as e-cigarettes and heated tobacco products. The main beneficiaries of this approach to tobacco control are the tobacco and vaping industry, because now the industry provides more choices of addictive products to youth. Riding along the streets of Manila this past few days, I am shocked to see so many sari-sari stores painted with the red and white of the Marlboro chevron. This is a relaunch of the Marlboro cigarette advertising that is visible to children. And this is the same company that is claiming it is going smoke-free. WHO FCTC Article 5.3 calls on governments to protect public health policies from commercial and other vested interests of the tobacco industry and those who further its interests. The Philippines is internationally renowned for its 2010 landmark measures that implement this important provision of the WHO FCTC. As countries prepare for COP11 in 2025, we can expect the tobacco industry lobbying to intensify. E-cigarettes will continue to be a hot topic, and the COP process has a mechanism for transparency to protect public health. I urge the Philippines government to COP11 to, number one, exclude agencies that protect and promote the tobacco industry, two, to declare conflict of interest, and three, when you go to the COP11, to do your utmost to protect children and youth from all forms of tobacco use. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Asunta. We appreciate your insight and your observations. I'll call now on DTI. Before you take the floor, I just wanted to put something on record. Um, we're ready to proceed, no? Asik, I'll let you make your statement first, and then you might actually be able to explain some of the questions I have regarding timeline. So I'll just let you take the floor first. You have the floor, Asik Nograles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to everybody. Gusto ko po sanang i-update unang-una that yesterday, we had a very successful vape operations wherein we were able to seize a retail value of almost 25 million of illegal vape. Napabalita po to sa news today and last night po. And this is through the efforts of the DTI in coordination with the PNP. So I've been supervising head for CPG. It's my third month today officially, and I'm very proud to have been assisted by Director Philip Sawali in doing this enforcement operations. So I'd also like to clarify, ma'am, we agree with you when you say that hindi na po kailangan ng IRR before effective yung mga provisions ng vape law. And as a testament to that, continuous po ang enforcement operations ng DTI sa vape doon sa ibang provisions na hindi pa nabibigyan ng IRR, katulad nung mandatory, yung hindi pa effective, yung with respect to mandatory product certification. That is why to date, we have a total number of firms monitored na 84,011 and total number of products confiscated na non-compliant, that's about 65,451 with a total retail value of over 30 million pesos. On the enforcement po, we'd like to update that we came out recently with Task Force Kalasag. That department order was signed by Secretary Pascual last month. And itong Task Force Kalasag, nakafocus po tayo sa operations sa vape. Very clear sa vape law na nilalayo po natin ang vape sa mga minor. So any advertisement, selling, or distribution targeted to minors, hinuhuli po agad ng DTI. And we came out with Task Force Kalasag specifically to to heighten the enforcement operations of the DTI. We also have liaised with local government units wherein we have entered into MOUs for joint enforcement operations. Nangyayari po to, we contact the LGUs for surveillance, and when we have intelligence, sabay po kami nag-e-enforce. On the part of DTI for violations of the vape law, and on the part of the LGUs for other violations. Kasi usually po, ang nangyayari, yung mga violators natin, sila rin po yung walang business permit or not registered. So sabay po yan ine-enforce. We also have an existing memorandum of agreement, and we have cooperation agreements with the PNP and NBI. And sa katunayan po, ma'am, ang PNP is Southern Police District sa Parañaque. Sila po yung nakapag-assist sa amin. Kaya po naging successful yung enforcement operations namin yesterday. We also have an agreement with the ULAP, the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines. And that is why recently we held a webinar na ang target po natin ay ang National Movement of Young Legislators. These are the aged 40 and below vice mayors, vice governors, board members, and councilors. Sila po talaga ang youth na target natin to raise the awareness with respect to violations of the vape law. Finally, yes, ma'am.
Finally ka na ba? Kasi,
On enforcement po, ma'am.
okay, sige, tapusin natin. I just have a lot of questions, so nagpapatong-patong na yung questions ko. So I wanna, sige, gawin mo na yung finally.
Okay, ma'am. So, on enforcement po, finally, sa Bureau of Customs, in February, we wrote to them requesting the Bureau of Customs to require importers to secure a certificate of conditional release from the DTI first before the goods are actually released to the importers. In this way, we can ensure that the already effective provisions of the vape law can be checked before the goods are imported. So, na-check na po natin yung mga flagrant violations like yung mga flavor descriptors, yung may mga gumagamit ng lanyard. Pag na-import yan, na-check na po natin because we now require since February 2024 a certificate of conditional release. So, that will be also helpful na kapag required na po ang mandatory product certification and registration in June, before the Bureau of Customs releases that, the DTI will come in and issue a certificate of conditional release. Natatag na po lahat ng importation, nakikita na po ng DTI, lahat ng imported vape products. So, dadaan na po sila sa atin. Finally, ma'am, yung nakikita po natin sa mga online selling platforms na nagbebenta ng vape. Ang nangyayari po kasi sa amin, patuloy po ang online monitoring unit natin. Sa katunayan po, we have 82,913 firms monitored online, and we have almost 500 show cause orders issued for those who violate the vape law for online selling. But we've noticed na parang user experience natin, kapag tinitake down po yung website or yung post ng seller, bumabalik siya. Or now, nakikita rin po natin na minsan iniiba lang nila yung pangalan. And minsan po, nakikita rin po natin na nilalagay nila ibang pangalan like a legitimate business front, pero yung contents ng post nila is actually an illegal vape product. We have good working relationship with electronic selling platforms, and they've told us that they have their own monitoring, tas kami naman po may own monitoring, but ang nakikita po nating problema dito, they cannot simply say that they've monitored and that their algorithm cannot catch violators. So, one thing that we would like to consider as ipapatawag po natin yung mga online marketing platforms is whether or not we can engage the help of other government agencies like DICT or NTC to help regulate the access of the online selling platforms sa internet providers if they continue to allow the illegal vape to be sold online. So that is what we're currently exploring on the side of enforcement. Ma'am, would you... sige po.
Pause muna tayo. So while I'm conferring with my staff, they're ready to show just something that just with one click they found on TikTok.
Boost. But Vedanta. Hello, better living. Replace your everyday life with something much better.
Ayan. Please replace your everyday vice with something much better. Boost by Health Hack helps you improve immunity and mood with vitamin C. Detoxifies, boosts energy with vitamin B12. Recommended, ano yung nakasulat? I missed it. Recommended habitual daily use. Nagbigay pa siya ng ano. Ano ang tawag doon? Habitual daily use when desired. Is that it? There was another one. Walang audio. Have a hard time falling asleep.
Say it with me. Cap. 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 Cap.
The vape law, no? This is section 22? Yeah, section 22. Okay, one more daw. Let's look at one more. Is it written there? Yeah. In the caption, can we flash it again? Ayan na yung 95% less harmful. And there, it's in small. It's around the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the fifth line. E-cigarettes are 95% less harmful than cigarette source. Public Health England. So, may food grade pa? Relax e-liquid ingredients are food grade and are commonly used in daily life. Okay. Are we gonna watch this quick clip? Do we need to annoy ourselves further? No more na? Anyway. Yeah. Okay. O, yan siya. May ganun pa. And the point is, nag-glove siya, therefore safe. Ano ba yung point nun? Ano ba yung point nun? Anyway, okay, so DTI, I wanted to point out to you that Section 22 states online sellers and distributors of vaporized nicotine and non-nicotine products or novel tobacco products and online platforms that are non-compliant with Section 8 of this Act shall be ordered by DTI to immediately suspend trading of such products and shall be liable for fines and penalties. And that's exactly what you were saying you were doing. You show them a show cause order, which is part of due process, right? So once they receive a show cause order, in your experience, do they just close shop or what? Because the online platform are the ones that are there all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
These are the Lazadas, the Shoppees,
Yes,
and whatever, and now
Mhm.
TikTok Shop, right?
Mm-mm.
So so the seller first, the actual seller. So they receive a show cause. Then what happens? Nawawala na sila?
Immediately, ma'am, when we give them a show cause order to ask them to explain, but the actual post is immediately taken down. But that doesn't remove the offense because it has been committed. So the case will proceed. They have 48 hours to reply to that show cause order. Yes, ma'am. And it proceeds to adjudication, and then we impose the imposable penalties under the vape law.
Must have been a large number of sellers that have been, because it is what it is, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have evidence even if they take it down, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
On the average, do they deny that they're selling, or what's the story?
Minsan, ma'am, nagbabayad lang sila ng penalty. Kasi under the vape law, they just have to pay the penalty for their violation. An
What's the
administrative fine. Under the vape law, sometimes kung flavor
The
description.
first offense is 100,000, ha?
Yes, ma'am, under the vape
Magaang
law.
lang sa kanila yon.
For some of them, ma'am.
No, this is really important information that I'm asking of you, because when we recommend
Yes,
to
ma'am.
amend the law,
Yes, ma'am.
as a lawyer, I know that the laws have to be, what is the term, Attorney Rudy? No. The laws that we draft have to be commensurate, to be fair, di ba? They have to be commensurate to the crime. So if I recommended 1 million, this could be struck down for being unconstitutional because it is too harsh. The law is too harsh. So if you tell me now na 100,000 babayaran lang nila, i-increase ko na to.
Ma'am, it depends on the vape shops, no? Some of them are small fly-by-night vape shops. That's burdensome for them, but some of them are bigger, have more capitalization. So
So why don't you
they just
break
pay.
down your report so that you can really show us
Mm-mm.
how many just pay it, how many what happens. So but what then happens to the online platform? Kasi sila naman ang nag-house nitong, sila naman ang nagbibigay ng platform to sell these products.
Under the vape law, ma'am, the penalty is really just an administrative fine imposable by the DTI.
No, sorry, my question is what kind of explanation does the online platform give you?
Okay. Usually, ma'am, sinasabi ng online platform, they'll take down the post immediately, and sometimes yung seller, tinatanggalan
Yeah,
nila
but
ng
may first
account.
offense na siya. Madami-dami din to, ha? Because like, I don't know, if somebody wants to volunteer, there's masisipag na staff here from any senator's office. By the way, sometimes you don't see the senator here, but their staff is here, and they're watching online. So there's a lot of senators who have expressed concern about this issue. I'm sure in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you can find 10 online sellers.
Mm-mm.
So, yun na nga, iba-iba na yan. Yan lang, kaka-search lang daw habang nagsasalita ako. So, if you penalize the platform, that's not a joke pa rin, di ba? That's 100,000 times 10, times 20 a day.
Ang napipinalize po, ma'am, yung seller.
Bakit hindi tayo nag-provide ng penalty for the platform?
In some instances, ma'am, depending on the facts of the particular case, we implead the platform itself. But as a general rule, it's the actual seller who is charged with the violation of the vape law.
Well, it says here, online sellers and distributors and online platforms that are non-compliant with Section 8 shall be ordered by the DTI to immediately suspend trading and shall be liable for fines and penalties. So,
Sometimes, ma'am, nagbibigay po sila ng defense nila that they'll take down the post or that they were not advised that the seller would be selling those products that would be unauthorized. So there are various defenses that they put up in the course of the
I
proceedings with the
can't
DTI.
believe in this day and age that that can be on their platform and they are unable to monitor. I mean, with AI, if I did a chat GPT now and I said, show me 20 online sellers of blank platform.
I agree, ma'am. Kaya nga po yun nga po yung problema rin namin kasi huli kami ng huli, nauubos po yung oras ng mga monitors namin, takedown ng takedown, but then they keep cropping up. They change the name, they change the account, they change the brand. So now, ang initiative po in response to this, we want to talk to the platforms themselves kung ano ba talaga yung dapat nilang gawin. Kasi ang sinasabi po nila sa amin sa DTI, they have their own monitoring din daw po. But they cannot catch all daw po na
But
nagpo-post.
kindly tell your boss, Secretary Pascual, who is a friend of mine, when he was appointed, I already told him, asikasuhin niya tong problemang to dahil hindi ko to titigilan. He already knows that. So when you tell me that you just started and you seem to be doing a great job, I don't accept that ngayon kakausapin niyo yung online. That those online platforms were existing when the secretary was appointed.
Noted, ma'am.
So you're here and you're doing a good job explaining, but it does not excuse DTI from doing what the law says they're supposed to do. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So kindly relay my message to him.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Because you said that was on enforcement. And by the way, when you reported at the beginning of your statement about the 25 million confiscation, or what was it? What did you call it?
The seizure, ma'am,
Operation,
of the
yeah,
illegal-
the seizure.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said illegal. In what way were they illegal? Illegal because they violated what? The flavors?
Opo.
What?
Ma'am,
In what
una-
way were they illegal?
Unang-una, ma'am, we discovered that the illegal vape was sold within 20 meters of Baclaran Elementary School.
Okay.
Secondly, we saw that it was actually a milk tea shop na it was a front, but it was really a vape shop. Number 3, there is an existing preliminary order issued against the selling and distribution of Flava products. And what we found were Flava products being distributed and sold through this shop. Number 4, we saw, ma'am, that the products they were selling used flavor descriptors that are prohibited, yung mga grape flavored or cappuccino. And number 5, meron pong mga lanyard na bawal po yun na merchandise because it unduly appeals to minors.
What's the next part of your what you wanted to report?
Opo,
Because
ma'am.
I'm waiting for the report on the
Registration.
registration. Is
Yes,
that it?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, ma'am, ang mangyayari po na timeline, by June 2025, the mandatory product certification and registration will come into effect. What that means is that no vape products can be manufactured or imported or manufactured or imported in the Philippines without the DTI PS mark or ICC sticker. So to implement that, ma'am, recently, actually,
Sorry. They were telling me something. Can you just repeat your last line?
Opo. Yung sinasabi po natin by June 2025,
2024.
2024, sorry ma'am, June
Kaya sila
2024,
kagulo.
yung mandatory product certification and registration will be effective.
Okay.
That means bawal na po magbenta, mag-import, mag-manufacture ng vape products na walang PS mark or ICC sticker.
Sandali I'll pause you like there. I want to bring this up to all of you here representing your various agencies, especially your secretary. Of course, you became the secretary, so did your your boss, you both became secretaries, napasa na yung vape law na yan, di ba? But technically, since pumasa yung vape law na yan, which was July 25, 2022, was when it lapsed into law, we have been selling this with zero registration, right? So basically, you know, we don't care. We don't care what's in it because that's what happened. And my team was informing me that the late Secretary Juan Flavier of Health, and later on my colleague Senator Flavier, when the Yeah, DDT. Yes, okay. The DDT, yung pang anti-lamok, when that was banned in the time of Secretary Flavier, he banned it immediately. Banned, you're out, you're out, you're out. You cannot sell it. And in fact, some countries did not have the political will to ban it. Nagbenta pa. Parang pinayagan pang mamatay pa yung ibang tao and not outright ban. So my question is, knowing that these are still harmful products, maybe less harmful. Kaya nga hindi ko, I leave that to the experts. Maybe not, maybe not. There is no scientific evidence yet that they can pass the test of harm reduction. Tama? Harm, yeah. We let it be sold for the last how many years? That is a fact. Well, anyway, malapit nang mag-expire yun. But let's acknowledge that it was sold. It was sold. Nakiusap yung cigarette manufacturers, give us time to sell this harmful product without any regulation. That is what happened. Let's accept that. Yan ang nangyari. So, nangyari na, okay, sige. I don't know how many people's lives were risked for this accommodation to the industry, because that is what happened. And so here we are in about less than 2 months. About 2 months, no? You will start, sabi mo, you will not allow products that do not have a certificate of registration. So kindly explain, because are we talking about the license to operate? Well, by analogy, if FDA was handling this would be a license to operate of the establishment, and then it would be a CPR, a certificate of product registration for the product. So kindly explain what DTI has in mind.
Okay. So, ma'am, ang mangyayari po dyan, if it will be a manufacturer who wants to obtain, to manufacture vape, yung factory po ang gusto niyang i-register, the manufacturer will apply for a PS license for the factory, and all of the products that will be manufactured under that factory with the PS license will have a corresponding PS mark. If the vape products will come from abroad and it's via importation, they have to obtain an ICC clearance with the DTI. So basically,
what is an ICC clearance?
Import commodity clearance, ma'am.
Okay. So my question is, sabi nyo may PF, post means product standard.
Philippine standard.
Philippine standard. So a manufacturing facility needs a Philippine standard certificate, and then for the products,
It will have a
requires what?
PS mark.
A PS mark, which is a Philippine standard mark.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the competence in DTI in determining the safety of those products?
Okay, so that's why under our current issuances, meron po tayong tinatawag natin na technical regulations which carry yung Philippine national standards. We currently have 6 Philippine national standards. There's a Philippine national standards for the vapor product device. There's a PNS for vapor product refills. In fact, 4. There are 3 PNSs for vapor product systems. There are 2 for the heated tobacco device and heated tobacco system. There's 1 for heated tobacco consumables, and there's 1 for tobacco-free oral nicotine pouches.
Sige, are you about to explain to me how
Opo.
did you come up with these standards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, The WTO requires that
TO.
yes ma'am.
What's that got to do with health?
Ma'am, yung sinasabi po nating general standard, parang standards, good standardization procedures po has been mandated by the WTO. What they're saying is that when we come up with Philippine national standards, which supposedly ensure the quality of the consumer products, we first have to look at international standards if there are counterparts as reference. If
Okay.
none, we look at regional standards, and if
I
none,
understand.
other national
Yes,
standards.
yes.
So the PNS, if you look at it, it's actually a lengthy document that's produced after several technical working group meetings. Ang kino-cover po niyan is on the issue of quality of the product. So, for example, we're testing for the safety of the battery, safety of the chargers, safety of the consumables now, ma'am. So, chine-check po natin if it has certain, under the vape law po kasi, meron po siyang upper limit of 65 milligrams per ml. So, the PNS incorporates that standard that the products or the consumables should not go beyond that 65 milligrams per ml.
Of nicotine?
Yes, ma'am, of nicotine.
Okay.
And then, ma'am, we also have a suggestion, yung other hazardous substances, yung carcinogenic, mutagenic, yung mga harmful substances, we also have a PNS to check on that. So, chine-check din sana natin yon sa mga products. So,
Sana. So what does that mean?
the point, ma'am, is that if you are given a PS mark or a ICC or an ICC sticker, that presupposes that you successfully passed the PNS standards. You have that seal. And based on those standards, pumasa po yung produkto for product quality, which encompasses na rin po the safety of the product.
You mentioned battery life. What were the three things you mentioned?
Currently, ma'am, kasi yung limited po kasi ang testing facilities po ng BPS. What we test in-house will be the battery charger, the secondary battery, the vape device, and the HTP device. For other things that we need to check, for example, the consumables of these products, we require results from a BPS accredited laboratory or an independent lab that we in turn verify po on the part of DTI.
Okay, let me ask Secretary and FDA. Well, FDA no, but Secretary, just can your team be involved in this discussion? Do we have labs in this country that have been trained and are capable of determining what are the harmful products potentially in a e-cigarette, a vape? Do we have?
Madam Chair, may I ask Director Rivera, the head of my technical working group, to explain further the testing capacity of the FDA?
So for the record, this is Director Rivera.
Rivera.
De Vera. And
R.I. Rivera po.
Rivera.
Yes, ma'am.
And your background is, are you a pharmacist? Are you what are you?
My background is on chemical engineering, and I have a master's degree on environmental science,
Okay,
Your Honor.
thank you. Go ahead.
Um,
Because you're basically an expert witness right now. My question is, my question was not what does FDA have? My question was, what tests are necessary? Do we have tests in this country that can tell us if what are the ingredients in those e-cig vape products, and determine what is harmful, or what is a harmful level, or is a what is a harmful level, what's not harmful.
The FDA currently, our laboratory is equipped to monitor nicotine. And at the time when the law was assigned to the FDA, we were already processing the standards for the nicotine testing for the different refills. And for the harmful and potentially harmful chemicals, um, we have the equipment, the necessary equipment to do the tests. We have the gas chromatography MSMS tandem. We have the high performance liquid chromatograph. So what we need is actually the reference standards for our laboratory to be able to detect the different elements or substances that is present in the liquid refill. However, we stopped developing the methods because of the issuance of RA 11900.
So, ASEC Nograles, do you have this equipment?
Currently, ma'am, none. That's why we requested it in our budget po. What we require, ang meron lang po tayong equipment will be for the battery charger and the devices. For the other consumables, we've already proposed a request for budget for us to be able to test the consumables po.
Minute suspension. I have another hearing at 4. So anyway, we'll wrap this up in a few. Okay, ready to resume. Um, does DOH want to say anything? You may, if you want to.
Yeah, I'd like because I also talked to the Madam Chair, to all the authors of the bill, and especially the physicians who were part of those that were in the deliberations, and they really insisted, according to the physicians who were in legislation at that time, they really insisted that FDA be consulted in the registration of the nicotine and non-nicotine and heated tobacco. So it's actually stated very clearly for on Section 18 of the law, product standard requirement, the DTI, in consultation with the FDA, shall set the technical standards for safety, consistency, and quality of the products requiring registration in the immediately succeeding section. So, yes, DTI will register, but they have to consult the FDA, because we have done FDA law. Anything you ingest under the Food and Drug of 2009, the Act, it requires that FDA has to approve them, and all other claims, whether,
And the Supreme Court has supported that.
and the legislator said we have to follow that law in applying the vape law. So we want DTI to follow that as well.
I will give you a little history of that law, no, because um, if people go to court, this may be useful to whoever needs to defend themselves. The law that preceded this vape law, which was a sin tax law, gave the authority to regulate to FDA. And if you look at the website of FDA and DOH, anything that has to do with health is the mandate of DOH, and to the extent of regulation, FDA. DTI, on the other hand, I have always questioned if your mandate has changed, because I'm not aware that there's any law that gives you any jurisdiction, that gives you any competence in regulating, inspecting, testing products that are harmful to the human body. I am not aware. I am happy to be educated, but I am not aware. So when this vape law, which was highly lobbied by the tobacco industry, that is a fact, was being debated on the floor in the Senate specifically, I was arguing for the jurisdiction of DOH and FDA to remain, and the position of the tobacco supporting legislators was to give it to DTI. So every secretary who has held that post of DTI, I have warned that you will be violating the law and your mandate if you insist on performing a function that you are incapable of doing. And during the budget hearing, I believe I think it was the 2021 budget hearing, so that would have been the latter part of 2020. I told then Secretary Ramon Lopez that I pointed out to him the inconsistency of DTI, wherein in the first hearing they said that they are only capable of regulating the devices. And I said, to me, a layman, sounds correct. And I remember discussing this with then FDA and DOH, and they said, well, of course they'd prefer to regulate the whole thing because it works together. Yun ang position ng DOH and FDA then. But DTI said kaya nilang mag-regulate ng device. So even in the first hearing, DTI was not insisting on regulating the content. And then during the budget, I questioned because I read a statement from DTI saying that they will regulate the content. And I said, how? How? Saan ang capability nyo? Saan ang capacity nyo? Do you have, and I will now put this on record, because as Director Rivera was pointing out, they were preparing for this. So I'll put this on record because this happened during the budget hearing of DOH and FDA. Tama ba? DTI. But then I got this information from FDA. Okay. So because I believe I was handling the budget of DOH already at that time. Yes, daw. Okay. I got this information from them, and I had asked a similar question. Does the FDA have the testing facility, machinery, and necessary personnel to evaluate e-liquids? Does DTI have the same experts and health professionals? So, as Director Rivera said, prior to the vape law, FDA was in charge of testing of vapes and had already established the Novel Tobacco Regulatory Unit, which are composed of allied health professionals trained in risk assessment. And these professionals include pharmacists, nurses, engineers, toxicologists, globally harmonized system experts. These are experts on the classification and labeling of chemicals. Also, an expert panel that assists the NTRU in its capacity building and assessment of products, composed of clinical toxicologists, pharmacologists, addiction specialists, and pediatric specialists. Do you have any of these people employed by DTI?
No, ma'am.
You don't. And DTI did not have in 2020 when I asked, and they said they would get. And Secretary Pascual, later on, when he was hired, I gave him a complete, lengthy narration of what had transpired to prepare him for this moment in time where I do not want any of you who I like to believe would like to serve our country well to be charged with violation of the laws that you are trying to uphold. But not doing this and having had all the time is clearly a nonfeasance, and the ombudsman will not have a hard time preparing a strong case. You are new. I'm not trying to scare you, but this is the job that you jumped into. And you cannot say we don't have it. If you don't think they are giving you the tools that you need to do your job, you should do what you need to do to protect yourself. Because I do not want any of you to be used as an scapegoat. This is not a joke. June 25 is 2 months away. June 5. Yeah, okay. June 5 is less than 2 months away. And when you mentioned ASEC Nograles that you were looking for a third party, why would you look at the third party? On your right hand is FDA. Why in the freaking world? Why? I'll tell you why. Because the tobacco lobbyists have insisted that mahirap kausap ang FDA and ang DOH. So, Secretary, your job is cut out and Dr. Sakate before you. I said, yes, of course, mahirap kausap because you're trying to sell a product that is very, very, very potentially harmful. So, of course, padadaan kayo sa butas ng korayom. Of course. And you have already had more than 3 years of between the time that the sin tax law passed, that was 2020, and the sin tax reform IRR passed in 2020 rin naman, end of the year. It's been 3.5 to 4 years. That's the time that the tobacco industry has had to prepare for being regulated. And that is the time that DTI has also had to regulate because gusto nilang sila ang mag-regulate. Maybe not that time because sin tax reform pa lang. So you count na lang natin yan from the time that the vape law was passed, which was June 2022. Tama ba? Yeah, June 2022. So that's 2 years. And nothing was done because DTI doesn't care to do it. That's what it is. You want to sell a product that you have no ability to regulate. So you don't have to be a lawyer. You just have to be, I don't know, a person of reasonable intelligence to understand, can you do your job if you don't have the tools to do your job, if you do not have the training to do your job? Why would I ask DTI to do it when there's a chemical engineer with a master's in environmental science in another agency who can do the job? Why? Because we are allowing the tobacco industry to dictate the health of our children. That is what we're doing. So I will do what I can to amend the law, but even without amending the law, you can all stand up and do what is right and tell them that we can't do this without the proper tools. And don't accept this BS that you'll hire third party. There is FDA. That would be misuse of public funds. Why would you go to a third party? Why? You just don't want FDA involved. Why? Why? If they don't do their job, and I've said this to tobacco lobby supporters, I said, then change the head. If they don't do the job, then change the head. Kaya kayo sa FDA, be prepared because if they need help, be ready na saluhin nyo sila. If they don't ask for your help, just keep on giving them all the information you can give them so that they know and they cannot pretend that they do not know that they are not able to regulate a harmful product. You tell them, you issue them the memorandums. That's why I told you, cover yourselves. I'm giving you a fair warning. Secretary Herbosa was correct, no, in pointing out, like I said, no, this is a provision of law that I fought so hardly for and I lost. I wanted FDA, DOH, FDA to have jurisdiction. And I think the best that I could do, because I lost the vote anyway, was DTI in consultation with FDA. Nag-consult kayo? May I know?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And
In coming,
you're prepared on June 5 to tell the public that they can register their devices, but they bahala na sila sa kanilang health because you are incapable of testing the content.
ma'am, may I respond to that
Of course.
statement? Regarding, so yung nangyayari po kasi, the devices, in-house po natetest ng DTI. Yung consumables, yung refillables, we accept a BPS recognized testing laboratory or a testing lab accredited by International Lab Accreditation Cooperative. This is what the DTI does for other consumer products, and it's
Not food products.
pero ma'am,
These are food products that we are talking about. Health products. Sorry,
Yes,
let me
ma'am.
correct myself. Health products.
yes, ma'am. So
Why would you go to an international when you have in Alabang? Yes. I don't know kung saan ang lab ng DTI. Saan ang lab ng DTI?
Cavite.
Cavite. Oh, Alabang lang ang FDA.
So ma'am, sorry ma'am. So in the meantime, we have that, but we've also requested
Why?
for
Would
the
you like, why
20
don't you find out?
Yes, ma'am.
What,
we'll
for
do
your
that.
own protection, why don't you find out?
Okay. But ma'am, we'd also like to state for the record that for the 2025 budget, we've requested for additional testing facilities precisely for these items.
May I also inform you, because like you said, you're new. Kaya nga binigyan kita ng history. Nung 2020 pa lang, sinabi ko na sa kanila, may balak ba ang DTI na gawin ng maayos ang trabaho? Wala. Bakit ngayon pa lang 2025? Bakit? Bakit? Kasi deadline na. My God. Is that the kind of public service we offer the Filipino people? You're supposed to be able to regulate those products by 2025, and then sa 2025 budget ka magre-request? Really? And I know it's not you. This is not personal, but I am informing DTI and the secretary no less at alam niya to. Nung in-appoint siya, sabi ko sa kanya, tutukan niya to. Sabi ko sa kanya, hindi siya capable na gawin to. Humingi siya ng tulong sa FDA. Sinabi ko na yon. So don't tell me that you're asking for a budget, because that budget should have been requested years ago, and that does not excuse DTI from doing a sloppy job because they do not have the mandate. I do not know if they're even capable of including in their plantilla scientists and doctors. I do not know if they can do that. Secretary.
Thank you very much, Madam Sec. I also want to state that it's very simple for DTI to actually work with the FDA because it just requires a G2G memorandum of agreement to help do the testing. So I'm as an attached agency, I am volunteering my FDA and all their laboratories and experts to do the testing through a G2G, because an international, you still have to do bidding on that. You still have to do government procurement of that particular bidding, which will take long again.
To recognize, you mean to recognize that international
Yes. As
agent
a body to
body
do the
that will
testing
be
for
do
them,
the test.
because they will
Hindi
request
hindi
for the
pwede
body.
naman basta ipadala mo yan sa Africa or
Yeah,
whatever.
oo, yeah.
Are you
So-
aware of that, Asek?
Ma'am, yung registrant po yung nagpapatest sa lab, hindi po yung DTI. They submit the test report to
Okay,
us.
but why would you want them to go internationally? Duda ba kayo sa capacity ng FDA? Ayaw nyo bang mag-deal with FDA? Why?
We'll take that into consideration, ma'am. But regarding the budget po, we've previously requested for that in our Tier 1 2024 budget, but it was denied.
That doesn't excuse you pa rin. It's not an excuse.
We are also willing to test the devices because there are health risks of the device, because in 2023 and 2018 and 2016, if you search the internet, there are vehicles that have what do you call it? Instrument vape devices that have exploded, and in one case, a man in Florida was killed from a Philippine-made vape product. So it even so I think because it can kill, I think FDA also has a device registration and analysis thing. We're also willing to do that if the DTI will and it's anyway in alliance with the law. The law says in consultation with, and we're even going to do the testing and then give them the result of the test.
Okay. Anyway, I think as I said, I have another hearing, and I think we've exhausted uh the points that I needed to read and the clarifications. Um did you want to add anything? No more. Okay. So did you want to add something? You're still deciding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very
You can
quickly,
just
to
to be clear, you
helpful.
can still all write position papers, follow up. I mean, sometimes even for me, I need to digest everything I hear and then, organize my thoughts. So you can still say whatever you need to say after the hearing. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will submit additional position paper. I just wanted to be helpful in terms of testing. The tobacco industry has a long history of having infiltrated the ISO, International Standards Organization, with regard to tobacco products, and now they're doing the same thing with these newer electronic devices.
Okay.
And so the DTI would be
Sorry.
wary.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to be sure that DTI is taking note, no? I mean, these are health advocates that just want to save our children and even adults, no? I mean, some adults, they get addicted and they their families suffer through very difficult, painful sicknesses and deaths. So can you just repeat? Because I just want DTI representatives here to hear it, no? I mean, I sincerely believe that all of us here want to do our job well. And I wouldn't want anyone here to be to fall short, and worse, to be subject to criminal charges because of misunderstanding of what their responsibilities are under the law. So kindly repeat what you were saying.
Thank you, Madam
Dr.
Chair.
Yu.
So I was saying the tobacco industry has a long history of having engaged with international standards organizations, particularly the ISO. This has been well documented in the literature, where they manipulate the standards so that, for example, if we look back at the tobacco control history, we have what are called low tar and light and mild cigarettes. These were promoted as less harmful than regular cigarettes. So in the same vein as these newer products being less harmful. And the way the tobacco industry did this was to have the ISO determine tar levels, carbon monoxide levels, and nicotine levels, as if a particular number would be safe, yes. And so many smokers shifted to these light and mild cigarettes. And that's why in our graphic health warnings law, we actually prohibit descriptors such as light and mild for this reason, because they're deceptive. And so just a word of caution maybe to our regulators, that when the tobacco industry tries to offer particular standards, to be very careful, because we SIATCA, we have a publication that actually documents some of the newer ISO bodies and these electronic standards being developed for the newer products being influenced by particular consultants of the tobacco industry. And there are resources available outside of the ISO. So WHO has a tobacco laboratory network and also a tobacco regulatory study group, which the FDA is closely tied into. So they would be wise to consult these other resources. Thank you.
Asik Nograles, when you narrated the Philippine national standard set for vapor product device, vapor product refills, etc., etc. Did you consult DOH and FDA on that?
Yes, ma'am. That was DTI in consultation with the FDA.
Really? Can you show me? Can you submit the evidence to that effect?
Yes, ma'am. We'll give you list of the meeting.
What year was that? Do you recall anything about this, Dr. Sakate? Baka pwede mo pahiram, Dr. Domingo? On,
Madam Chair, as far as my knowledge is concerned, they are already always in constant communication, the TTI and the FDA, regarding the consultation, whatever the regulation that they will do. They have a
hard, pumasayan sa inyo?
maybe I asked my
Okay,
working
sige.
group.
Ma'am, for the record po, there are 6 PNSs regarding vape, no?
Yeah, you
Most
said it
of
already.
these-
You said
yes.
the 6. I know the 6.
Most of these were promulgated in 2019 before the passage of the vape law. So, based on our records, yung last 2 which were promulgated after the vape law, these are the ones that we have records of actual consultations with the FDA.
Why would there be a PNS for vape products for the 4 of the 6? You said yung dalawa lang naiwan. When DTI has no jurisdiction over them based on the sin tax law. Why?
Ma'am, based on records, there's an existing FDA regulation stating that DTI will come up with a PNS for these items before the passage of the vape law. So there was an FDA regulation asking DTI to come up with a PNS.
Can you give me a copy? So that was before both of your individual times, but that's not a problem. I just need to see why.
2019-007.
I know, but I don't understand why DTI would be doing this when the existing law 2019. So that's also before the sin tax law. So that means the tobacco lobby already talked to DTI and kinontrata na sila na kayo ang magre-regulate sa amin. That is my unofficial conclusion. Why else? Why else?
Ma'am, it was an FDA issuance referring it to DTI for the promulgation of the PNS.
Kaya nga, so I will check nga. I will check. I don't know why. So can you also check? I'm sure you have people in FDA na matatagal na dyan. Ask for the history. I want to know. I want you to submit it to us.
We will submit a report, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you. And I thank you, ASEC, for your candor. No, I know you were not involved until a few months ago, as you said. But this is very serious, and you have to understand that the tobacco lobby is seriously involved in policy making of their product. That you can buy books, you can check the internet, it's all over there. I also wanted to point out something to you, DTI. Because this is what is this? Your letter to me dated April 11th, so just, a little bit over a week ago, wherein you pointed out that DTI and ULAP is the Association for Local Government. Tama? Yes, Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, had a webinar for local government executives on protecting consumers from the dangers of a vape. from the dangers of vape, a webinar on national and local action for smoke-free communities. On March 22 on my birthday, what as horrible way to celebrate my birthday. Huwag niyo nang uulitin yon kung yun lang. Anyway, may doktor kayong kasama?
Yes, ma'am. We have representatives from the DOH. We also have representatives from the DepEd, the CHED, BIR, and the DICT.
So you had a representative from DOH. Sino
Yes,
yun?
ma'am. Dr. Tan. I'll get you the complete name, ma'am.
Can you recall who? Yeah, who is
Tan.
she?
Dr. Ria Tan from Health Promotion and Tobacco Control.
Okay, okay. I have a question for both DOH and DTI. Do you know that a smoke-free world is a tagline or slogan being used by the tobacco companies? Do you know? Are you aware? Are you aware, Asek Nograles?
Not really, ma'am.
How about you, Director Sawali? Are you aware?
I've heard of that, ma'am.
Oo. How about kayo, Director Katahay?
Not aware.
You're not
Yeah.
aware. So I'll put this on record, no? So Philip Morris mission is to deliver a smoke-free future. And a few years ago, they started going around LGUs proposing a smoke-free ordinance on the guise of protecting the youth from the ills of their own product, because they now have a novel product. And to be clear, for those who don't understand the depth of the trouble created by the Philippine delegation, and why they were a recipient of the Dirty Ashtray Award, the Philippine delegation proposed that the issues revolving tobacco and novel tobaccos be combined, right? They also proposed that. And they're two separate issues. They're both harmful, but they're separate issues. So you have to understand that this is what the tobacco industry does. So I mention it because in your letter to me, you mention, and you took away the letter. No, but naka-mark up yun eh. Yeah, so in your letter to me where you mentioned that you report that DTI and ULAP had a webinar on the dangers of vape, the specific title yata of the event is Dangers of Vape, a webinar on national and local action for smoke-free communities. So if you really, truly don't want to fall into that trap, please call it something else. I feel bad for a lot of local government agencies and even that may not have known. So now you know. So please don't, because that is the tagline that they use. Okay? So anyway, so going back lang, kasi si DOH representative, is it a Dr. Tan? Did you mention? Is it Dr. Tan? Yeah. I don't, maybe, anyway, I don't need to speak to her, but can I just check what kind of seminar this is? Does she have a prominent role in this talk? Because it's a health talk.
And I'm sure if we can recognize Director Rodney Garza, who is supervising of Health Promotion Bureau.
Okay, sure. Just very quickly, kasi nga, hearing pa pala ako.
Madam Chair, Dr. Ria, who is our program manager for tobacco control, was invited as a resource speaker to discuss the dangers of vape. This is also compliant to our mandate on increasing awareness under the vape law on the harmful effects of vape.
Okay, but can you also submit to me who else were your speakers and what exactly was discussed? Because we're very cautious about who speaks about the dangers of vape, because the tobacco industry has been known, and you can also Google. I don't know if there's time because I'm about to end this hearing for today, but they're known to hire doctors who will be in a white suit, or hire people who will just wear a white suit and look like a doctor, and then promote nga yung binanggit nyo na menthol is safer. I wanted to add to that, one of my favorite magazines, maybe 20 years ago, I would still read it now, pero wala na yata nagmamagazine, so kahit ako, hindi na ako nagmamagazine. I won't mention the name, but if you ask me later, I'll tell you. She's, the owner of that magazine is a health advocate, and I think she had a policy of choosing her advertisers carefully. So parang I heard, sabi niya, she won't carry advertisers like this, like that, basta kung harmful, not just health but whatever. And then nagulat ako, may tobacco ads. So I'm like, oh, ano nangyari? May tobacco ad. Ba't pumasa sa kanya yon? Kasi yung ad is organic tobacco. So to add to the list, organic tobacco. I'm like, my gosh, may ganon. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I really was like, so when you said that, naalala ko. Yeah, anyway. Yes, we're gonna end. So last word.
Yes, and last word, and I just like to say, I think when I was having a meeting together with my colleague from Singapore, I was asking him why they banned vaping, because
Yes.
Singapore and New Zealand banned vaping, and they said they were trying to be part of what is called the Tobacco-Free Generation International. That's the anti-tobacco group,
That
not
is
the smoke-free group.
Exactly.
So said, what's I asked him, what's the tobacco generation? So it's an idea of attaining health through creating a cohort, a whole generation of children and youth not exposed to tobacco,
Exactly.
whether as firsthand or second. I said, that's wonderful. They're just lucky, he said, the deputy director general, the DDG of the Ministry of Health. He said, he's a surgeon and has been a friend of mine even before, and said, you're very lucky your legislators listen to you and our evidence. And that's their idea. I just wish the legislators listening now to this Blue Ribbon Committee will think of the tobacco-free generation. Can you imagine if we can create a generation of Filipinos that are tobacco-free? That would be a wonderful health outcome. Thank you very much, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Yeah, so that's my takeaway also for all the agencies. If you truly are not on the side of the tobacco lobbyists, then you should adopt these phrases, and maybe DOH can do a better job in calling out the smoke-free, the use of the term smoke-free, because it is a tagline, slogan, mission statement of Philip Morris. Come on. Yes, last na
Sorry,
word na
ma'am.
siya ha. So, mabait ako ha. Okay.
Ma'am, sorry, two points lang po. First po is that the DTI is in talks with Health Justice for a campaign for tobacco-free kids. So we're talking about joint enforcement and to come up with a model ordinance as a template, so that we can also come up with webinars and for info and knowledge sharing on the harmful effects of vape. And also, ma'am, as a final point, I'd like to thank the Madam Chair and the Secretary. We will following your suggestion, we will discuss with the Secretary the matter of coordination with the FDA with respect to the consumables and coming up with a product registration. Thank you for the suggestion, ma'am.
Well, the deadline is June 5, so I'll end on this note. On June 5, if a seller, a manufacturer is not registered, then they should not be on the market. And failure to implement the law as it is already a violation of the law. I'm not the implementers of the law. This is a hearing for me to understand what issues we have and to hold those accountable. So I honestly wish you well on how you intend to handle things on June 5. So I will suspend this hearing in case I may need another one, but our committee report is being prepared. You are still welcome to submit your position papers. The hearing is suspended. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if it's the same group of people saying for my next hearing, but we're all entitled to a quick mobility break and bathroom break.